my mom left DC. She was like one of the people who left the DC area. When she did that, it was automatic that I wouldn't live in DC. A great understanding of, you know, why people do the things that they do now. Not everything, you know, but I do understand why African American men and boys, they just, it's like they feel like it's their destiny to do that, because I guess, you know, nobody wants to do the things that they're doing in the hood, but like if you don't know anything else, it's all you've ever known, it's all you've ever seen. So you just grow up thinking like, oh, this is the next step for me. You know, one thing that my dad and my mom gave me, my mom left DC. She was like one of the people who left the DC area. When she did that, it was automatic that I wouldn't live in DC. My father left DC, and I saw where he lived. And so without them knowing they did that, they were doing that for me, they basically instilled it in me by their actions that I wasn't going to live in the ghetto because they left. When my father shared the story with me of how he quit smoking, it was powerful. And I said to myself, my father quit smoking and he did it like it was nothing. The way that he told me the story, he said he smoked one cigarette from the pack, he crumpled it up and threw it in the garbage, and he was done from that day. And when he told me that story, I was about 11 or 12. I wasn't even smoking yet. But I ended up smoking cigarettes, marijuana. I ended up smoking PCP, drinking alcohol, and I even tried crack before it was all over with. But because I remembered my father's story, my mother didn't have as easy of a time, but because of my dad, I knew that I had the strength in me to just quit when I was ready. And that's what happened to me. I'd never been to rehab. And the funny thing to me is that like a lot of people in my family have gone to rehab. And I've tried those drugs and I've never had rehab, but I do have the Most High in my life. So having God Most High in my life, it makes a big difference. But every person in my family in Washington, D.C. who's gone through rehab has always gone back to doing the drugs or whatever. It's just weird to me how rehab is just like, why doesn't it work, you know? One of the things that I noticed is like people go into rehab and they meet people in rehab who do drugs, and then that helps them to stay on drugs, and it's just really weird, you know, the whole process of how they are supposed to be helping. But yeah, that's my little story about how I got to a point where I had a dream. You know, I've always had a dream. I'm supposed to do something different. I always felt like I was supposed to be different. I'm supposed to do something different. I'm not supposed to be here. You know, I've even had people come up to me and say, when I was living in the Montgomery County area in the public housing, you know, this guy, he was just a maintenance man there, and he said, you know, he was an Indian guy. He's like, John, you do not belong here. He's like, your words, they tell me you do not belong here. And the funny thing was, he was trying to tell me like my mind was out of that place already, and he was saying to me, why are you still here? Your mind, your wisdom, your understanding of life is not here. He's saying who you are does not fit the bill. You know, it does not, you don't fit in here. You know, you are not a piece of this whole puzzle here, you know. So I'm glad that I went through all of that. I'm glad that I came through it and everything, because it makes me care. Because I do realize this, and I want to make that clear, that I have come away from those things. I don't live that way anymore. I don't think that way anymore. I've been clean and sober since before I was saved. Yeah, before I was saved, I quit smoking cigarettes. Before I was saved in 1997, I had no drugs in my system, you know. As I said, you know, I was very blessed. I still know that it was God. I know that it wasn't me doing that myself. And I acknowledge that, because I'm not going to be like Nebuchadnezzar and lose that because I think that I did it on my own. I know that I didn't. Because what makes me more special than anybody else in my family who has tried over and over again to get off the drugs? But when you find yourself in a position where you're given this help from God, He must want you to do something with that. And so I believe that I was not born in a certain, you know, in a better situation because I care. And I don't think that I would care about the people where I came from if I hadn't had the opportunity to grow up in the middle of that mess. If I wasn't molested and raped and abused in that mess, I wouldn't care, because I wouldn't know how it is. I would just sit back and judge them like other people do. I know that I would. I'm no better than the next person who judges people in the hood. It's just that I've been there, so I know it's not true. I know the truth because I lived it. So you can have dreams too, you know. Start looking at other people's lives, you know. Start looking at other people's lives and get an understanding of what you can have, what you can be, you know, what you can do. You know, mostly what you can be and what you can do. The having part, it comes with it. But number one, you have to do what you love. Make sure that you're doing something that you love. That's one of the things that, you know, even when I was on the right path, once I found the right path in life, I had to get to a place where I said, I'm going to do something because I love doing it. I'm not going to seek to do something because I want to make money. That's stupid, you know. When you do that, eventually you will be unfulfilled. You know, when you do that, you're not helping anyone. You're not doing anything with your life. And if the only reason that you're here is to make money, there are plenty of people already doing that. Our Father in heaven doesn't need anybody else down here to be selfish and greedy. There are people who are assigned to that. Okay?